Welcome, everybody, one and all, to this brand new episode of Cast It to the King on this wonderful Saturday of March the 22nd. My name is Joshua Mickle, and this is pretty first time for me. Let's see if we can bring that up there. Aha, yes, live and having motion graphics right there. So that's pretty nifty to have right there indeed. So still working at the kinks of live stream studio and also pro presenter at the same time to try to do this quasi live and a recording for your pleasure of watching this episode. I brought up the date, March 22nd. Today marks 1 year of recovering. 1 year ago today, I rang the bell and I had my final treatment. The final treatment of my chemotherapy that was going on to deal with the Hodgkin's lymphoma that I had. And needless to say, the last year has been surreal. In all honesty, it's been bumpy. Everything from. Let's get the one thing out of the way. Physically, it's like I never missed a beat since well before this even popped up in the fall of 2023. It feels like I haven't missed a beat, and it was like, I want to say a week or two after, or no, not even a week. It was like 2 days later after I rang the bell. I was doing yard work and cutting the grass with the mower. So, yeah, that I was quickly right at it. And those of you that know my job occupation, they can tell you that I was still working around the clock, doing what I do, while going through the treatments from November to March. I was still there. I was still finding a way to get there, and I was still finding a way to improve things and try to get things done around there. And it's really a surreal thing to be able to go through that, and then also now say for the next person. Any time now. I remember we were at this pizza restaurant with a couple of coworkers, and then there was this mother and what looked like her son. Her son wearing a face mask, bald, and had that fanny pack of the chemotherapy treatment wrapped around him. If I had to go back in time to that moment, I would have walked up to him and said, "Hey, everything's going to be all right. Everything's going to be all right." And I was just going through what you were going through. Sadly for me, I didn't do a thing. I just in my thoughts of there's that certain thing where you go through something and then you see someone else do it. You see someone else going through what you went through. It hits you differently. So every time someone says, "Hey, they went through chemotherapy," it hits me because I went through it. If someone says, "Hey, so this person just caught cancer," hey, yeah, man, I caught cancer. It just hits you a different way. And besides the physical part, because the doctors were just besides the initial things of it, the first one obviously was rough because I didn't have my port right here yet. So the first time around, they had to pull in wires all the way up my arm and into my chest area for them to administer the first round of chemo into me. And so my right arm was just immobile. You might as well have just cut it off during that first week of treatment. Then after the fourth week was the worst. After the fourth week, I had a bad reaction to it because it was the highest dose they put me on. And I was put in the hospital for a good few days. And then afterwards, after that fourth one, midway through the fifth one, I heard what can only be described as the Holy Spirit just saying to me, like, hey, you've been healed. You've been healed. This is over. This is over for you. You've been healed. And so after the fifth one happened, after every single chemo treatment, I would get what is called a white blood cell transfusion, to where the chemo just knocks everything out of you because it's trying to kill everything, the cancer cells, everything inside your body. Hence why people lose hair, because it's killing all the hair molecules from you growing hair in the first place. It's killing everything inside of you. So when you're done with chemo treatment, they put this, they give you the injection of white blood cell infusion. And needless to say, it's supposed to jack up your white blood cells, but after the first few times, and even going after the first few times, every time I got it, it was just a pain in the rear end. Sleepless nights, I tell you, sleepless nights, and much pain. The 3-4 days of the side effects of feeling that shot hurt the most than anything that I went through in during the actual chemotherapy. That was some of the worst I've ever felt. And for that fifth one and going on to that final sixth one, I got it. I was preparing for the worst, and then the calling came upon me, and then I didn't feel a thing. It was just like a shoulder shrug of like, okay, we've gone through this already. Okay. And me and my bald-headed self at the time still going about my business. And then the sixth and final week came and rang that bell. And even after all, and despite the ringing of the bell, there were, let's say, some fear-mongering things that happened afterwards, per se. It was a year ago today, and then it was sometime in April or May that I was back with my doctor for a follow-up after a PET scan. And he did not like what he saw, and he was suggesting blood cell therapy replacement, a seventh and eighth, however many more chemo treatments that he suggested that I should be going through. In my head, and I was giving my family the side-eye look. I'm like, I ain't not doing any more chemo treatments. I've done 6. I feel fine. This is not a situation where I'm masking my pain. There's seriously nothing. I don't believe what this doctor's now telling me. Over my cold butt cheeks right now in this garage for a 7th or an 8th chemo treatment run through. And so I got a second opinion. And in July, he said, that's going to be just scar tissue of what the mass used to be. And it's just going to be dead cells in there. Fast forward to October. And got a scan there. The mass has shrunketh. the mass has gone away and decreased by over 80% in in mass size. It has decreased in size from July of 24 to October of 24. Fast forward to January, where I just had a blood test, and he said everything's normal. Everything, you're on the right track. And I'm supposedly supposed to get another PET scan in April. In April. And then if that comes back well, it's going to be one PET scan a year treatments for at least the next 4 years. I want to say 3 years by that point, because this is a year 2 essentially. So another 3 years. It's one of those. I mean, it's just one of those things where I just have to. It's the toll it has taken on me emotionally, the white blood cell part, physically, spiritually sometimes, and especially with my family and my wife. Like, the things that I have been told of what their mindset was when all this was going down. It's just something like an out-of-body experience of what they were going through or what they were supposedly thinking of doing, and talking about worst case scenarios of what should they do, should the worst happen to me, especially after what was it, my biopsy or whatever it was that I got my first round of surgery done on. Not surgery. They essentially just wanted to extract some of the mass things out of, like a mass sample out of me, to the point where I was having tubes in my body, draining whatever needed to be drained. Hard to breathe when that initially happened, because one of the tubes was like, I swear it felt like it was like right up on my breathing. Like where you breathe, like the lungs area, it's like there was something there that prevented me from breathing properly all the way, to where I had to I had no choice but to take short breaths. And I mean, the toll that's taken on my wife, it's just something where it's nothing you plan. It's nothing. I mean, it is what it is. It is what it is. And pile on top of that some other things that have been going on behind the scenes I won't discuss on camera. Despite all that, we've come out on the other side. We're putting our best foot forward. We're trying to do our best, and we're doing really well. The only thing that's not doing well for us is right now we ordered a new dresser off of Wayfair with via Christmas money that we got, and it came in one of the most mangled boxes you can ever see. And we're supposedly supposed to be getting the parts today, the replacement parts today. So we will see about that. But I think I've gone on. I think I've said what I need to say here. But I mean, just long story short to say, today is the 1 year anniversary of being ringing that bell and being done with chemo treatments. 1 year ago. This was the last day for me. And then also couple that with, it was also the same day where in the dead of night, Rand Carthon, former Titans GM, made the trade for L'Jarius Sneed, to which it cited every single one of us in the Titans fan community. You can actually look that up on my YouTube channel. I actually did a emergency live stream broadcast talking about that. And you can see my bald head itself of where I was then, and then just go through the years of me growing my hair, wearing hats, not wearing hats. I think I'll do this without. I think I'll do this with the hat right now. Who cares about hat hair, right? All right. No tears for the weary. No rest for the weary. Let's get into this first topic right here. And that is this. The new Snow White has released. I went to go see it. I wasn't planning on seeing it on Thursday, but my wife had a group going on at church, and she wasn't feel well, so I offered myself, hey, could I drive? And then second thought came up in my head, hey, I'll drop you off, and I'll use my movie pass to watch Snow White. Why not? Why not kill the time? You're probably gonna be there for 2. You say you're gonna be done by 9. Okay, the movie's not 2 hours long. Go to see Snow White. And contrary to what may be online that you may see, and you will see in the lower third here, this, to me, is a really surprisingly good movie. Surprisingly good. My expectations for this film was that it was going to be complete hot, putrid garbage from everything that was behind the scenes with Rachel Zegler, I think her last name is. The comments she made. Okay, with Rachel Zegler's comments in promotion during the time of preconception of the movie to the pre-production to the actual filming, the things that she spewed online against people, against particular voters of a particular party, did not do this film any favors. And I remember in July of 2023, someone had leaked a set photo of these guys. And they were claimed to be the 7 magical creatures replacing the 7 dwarfs in this Snow White movie. To which, rightfully so, everyone online spewed and said, what the heck is this? And I remember sharing that from, I think it was the Daily Mail or the Daily Beast that posted that photo. And I immediately got a notification from Facebook saying, you have posted false news, fake news, information stuff. Your post has been taken down. Well, funny how the world works, right? Because not only was that false, those folks are actually in the movie. And before we get to them, I'm going to go through the positives and the negatives as to why I think this movie is really good. And I think it's up there in terms of Disney remakes that they've done since however long they started doing this. Like, what is it, Maleficent they did this with back in the early 2010s they started doing this. Let's say since 2010, it's up there with some of them. This film, for anyone complaining right at the gate, Snow White should be an ultra white woman. Should be an ultra white woman. This movie opens up with a perfect explanation as to why she is named Snow White. I won't tell you what. That's why you need to go see the movie. And this is pretty much straightforward. Like, there's nothing too much deviating from anything from the Snow White movie or anything from previous Snow White iterations of movies, not just Disney. Mirror Mirror is another example. Snow White and the Huntsman is another good example of where they use these sort of things. And so, with that being said, they explained why she's named Snow White while not being a white person. And they explain why she's a princess instead of her love, the Prince Charming, who is a run-of-the-mill bandit. I've seen folks complain online about the dynamic, like, why is she a princess and why is Prince Charming a bandit? One film that all these people probably love that has a princess and a bandit as her love interest. You want to take a guess of what that film is? Tangled. Flynn Rider and Rapunzel. No one. Nobody. No issues there. No issues there at all. So, and that's what I will compare this film. This is this film was made blended together with aspects from Tangled, from Cinderella, from Moana, and Oz the Great and Powerful. Like, if those four films were blended together with the story plot lines sprinkled in there of Snow White, this is the film you get. And we're going to start with the positive right here. And that is this. Rachel Zegler as Snow White. Whatever you may think of her off screen, I disagree with her, obviously. But as a singer and as an actress, she knocked this out of the park all the way. She knocked this out of the park. She's got good singing chops, and which we already knew that from West Side Story. If that was, for most people, that was their first exposure to Rachel Zegler, is the recent West Side Story movie. And so, Rachel Zegler is a good standout. Another standout is the script, the writing, and the directing. So, Mark Webb, last I checked, his last film was The Amazing Spider-Man 2, unless he's done some directing I'm not aware of lately. So he's this is his crack of directing. Funny enough, I had mentioned Oz the Great and Powerful. You have a former Spider-Man director now coming to do a classical movie for Disney with Sam Raimi, who just did Spider-Man 3, and now he's doing Oz. Now you have Mark Webb with The Amazing Spider-Man 2, now doing Snow White. Now, if we follow this path, Mark Webb is probably going to be doing a MCU movie in the future going forward with a magical character. Maybe it's Doctor Strange, or maybe it's someone else. I don't know. It's somebody going forward that Mark Webb's going to dip his toes into the MCU if he follows Sam Raimi's path. The writing was a fresh iteration take of the movie, and I just want to say this straightforward. I want to say, I'll save this take for later. I'll save this take for later in this particular segment. The dwarves were charming, funny, and really, really, like, one of the highlights of the movie. One of the highlights of the movie are the dwarfs, from the singing to. I mean, there's. I mean, these dwarfs. The negative I will say about the dwarfs themselves is that, and I agree with Jerry Johns when he came out with his review, is that it looks polar. I mean, I don't know if this was Jerry Johns or Christian Harloff that said this, that this was Polar Express light with the CGI. And so I could see I can see that point of view of the CGI being like that. Another positive we have to discuss with the film, the music. The music in this movie, chef's kiss in my opinion. 9 out of 10 if I had to rank it. 9 out of 10 if I had to rank it. 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10. And when you look up who wrote these new songs, redid some of the original songs, another highlight of the movie for me, the Hi-Ho song and the Whistle While You Work. Compare these two tracks in 2025 to what was almost 100 years ago. That people online will say, oh, the 1937 one is better than the one today. Hot take right here. I did not like the Snow White movie. The original Snow White movie. I don't like it. I think it's actually pretty outdated and bad for the type of animation and movie it is. I understand, yes, it was Walt Disney's first animated movie. It's one of the first animated movies ever in Hollywood. I get it. There's going to be bugs for the first one. But if we're judging a movie on its own, with no prejudice, with no behind-the-scenes importance or historical factors to it, Snow White, in my opinion, is not rewatchable. It is not. It's not rewatchable. This Snow White in 2025, I can watch again. I will happily turn that movie on again. And I've been listening to this soundtrack over and over and over again. The soundtrack is really, really popping. And come to find out, the two guys behind the soundtrack, behind the original songs, their names are Ben Pasek and Justin Paul. Why do those names may sound familiar to you? They did the soundtrack for The Greatest Showman. Small world we live in, people. Everyone praises The Greatest Showman's soundtrack, rightfully so. I think it got platinum for the record, for like their album. These two guys did the music and score. Did the new songs and re-upped the original songs for Snow White. These guys did the best they could do. There's no improvement to what they can do. Now, that's the positives out of the way. Let's get to the negatives out of the way. I praised some of the script. I praised the script. But there is a portion of the third act between the Queen and Snow White to where I'm kind of raising my eyebrow. I'm like, are we veering off a cliff here? What's going on with this setup here? Okay, that's how it ends. Okay. I mean, it's just one of those things where I'm just like, what's going on here? Sort of thing. That's one critique I have. The other critique I have, we were talking about Rachel Zegler being great on screen. This movie, with all the controversy, was preventable. She did not need to stoke up any right-leaning, folks, Trump supporters or whoever, any original Snow White fan supporters saying that you can't touch the original will always be the best, they will say to you. You don't attack those folks. You don't attack anyone that could potentially be your audience that's going to potentially pay you. You don't do that. Like, sports analogy here. Sports analogy for a second. We're going to talk about it later with the Titans. You do not, if you are the Tennessee Titans, advertise to us Brandon Allen as your starting quarterback for the 2025 season. You keep quiet about it, and then you go ahead and draft Cam Ward. Now, that's the sports analogy. Now, back to Snow White. Everything that has been said for the wokeness of this movie, and I'm convinced that everything... Oh, I shouldn't say everything, because there was a quote about like brave, fair, justice, whatever the 4 words were that Rachel was saying about Snow White and her dad. Turned out to be true in the movie. Turned out to be true in the context in the movie. And I would say that's almost akin to the Mirror Mirror movie. I don't know who did that particular movie, which studio did that. That was actually not a bad movie for a Snow White movie. Another... I lost my train of thought for a minute. Oh yeah. All this was preventable off screen. And I'm convinced that with the way the dwarfs look, it looks like unfinished CGI. And I'm convinced that these fellows right here were supposedly your woke DEI related fellows to replace the dwarfs. And so once that got out online, Disney pivoted. Bob Iger, fresh back into the CEO position, pivoted and said, no, we can't be doing this. Because this film was under the auspice of Bob Chapek at the time. And him veering too much to the wokeness, Bob Iger comes back in. And one thing I will give Bob Iger is this. He has left-leaning views, but he is a shrewd businessman that will not alienate any of his audience for your big project things. He will not alienate your audience. Hence, look at all the Disney films from 2010 all the way up to when he left in 2020. None of those films were controversial. None of those films were divisive amongst the fans, besides the Star Wars ones for obvious reasons, and we don't need to dive into that going forward again because Kathleen Kennedy's on her way out. And so Bob Iger probably saw this and said, put in the freaking dwarfs, man. Just put them in. Just make them CGI for all we care. And I will say that is another knock against the movies, that the dwarfs, you could have casted somebody. You could have casted many good dwarf people to play the characters here. Another thing that hurt this film before it even got into production, and I'm convinced this probably influenced the film as well. Hey, buddy. This is Milo, my sweet dog right here. This is your second appearance, right? Yeah, you were in episode 2 with Mark Siebling. I still remember that. That's because that's your last one. I know. And so, another negative we have to talk about. Gal Gadot's Evil Queen. The Evil Queen in this movie, the script, I would say, is not the issue, nor is the directing. I will pin this at the feet of Gal Gadot herself for what looked like and came across as overacting, like overplaying the part, and there are parts of her singing to where it did sound a little auto-tune-ish. I can't say for certain, like, definitively, like, yes, that wasn't her singing, that was someone else singing. Like, I can't say that for sure. The old crepit lady that gives Snow White the apple. Actually really, like, visually really, really good. Really good. But in terms of the movie overall, I would say go see it. I would say definitely go see it. And yeah, I would just say leave all of your opinions politically, behind the scenes stuff, what you may know. Like, leave them at the door when you enter a movie theater and just watch the movie as it is. All right, we're gonna quickly dive into this next topic here, and that is this, and we're gonna stick with Disney for a minute. I don't know if you can see this. I actually have a Stitch plush above my TV. I have a Stitch plush on top of my TV. I love Stitch. I love me Lilo and Stitch. I love the movie growing up. I love the movies after that, and I love the TV show that I religiously watched on Disney Channel. The first trailer to this movie is utter perfection. It is cute, adorable. It is everything you could ever want for a Lilo and Stitch trailer, for marketing and for the shots. Stitch himself, the CGI on him looks really, really good. Like, you see the cute personality there, and then you see this personality there, and then in another shot, you see a sad personality. Like, all of the emotes of Stitch are there. And they nailed it with the trailer. They nailed it with the trailer, and it's one of those things where I honestly believe, and I said this before it was even announced that they were going to make a Lilo and Stitch movie, live action. I said they should make that's how are you not go anywhere to Disney World or Walt Disney? I mean, yeah, go anywhere to Disney World or Disneyland and tell me where you do not see Stitch everywhere. He is a merchandise money printing machine for Disney. So why they weren't doing a live action movie sooner, I don't know. Glad they're getting to it now. It is about freaking time. It is about time they got to it. And I'll get this out of the way. I have said on the show that Lilo and Stitch, should they make one, will be my final Disney remake live action movie I will ever watch in the theater. And I stand by that. That's the last movie I will be seeing that's Disney live action remake. Because I will be just not seeing any more live actions and protests, because unless it's an original, give me an original. Unless it's a sequel to something that's already out there, or it's an original. I am not going to go see another Disney live action remake. There are only two things that can change my mind on that. Actually, three, but one's two are TV shows, but they can be dubbed into a movie. The first one they'll never touch is American Dragon Jake Long. They will never touch that for some reason. And with the success of Shang-Chi, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? That'd be my argument. Another one, Atlantis, The Lost Empire. That one would get me curious and lean over in my seat of, this was such a good movie. And this is such a good IP to do it for. The number one thing that would forego my boycott of live action remakes is if they gave this TV show its due to be a rightfully really good movie in the theaters, and that is Kim Possible. That's the only movie that will get me to back off of my I will not see any Disney live action remakes. That is the one and only IP that if they made that into a live action Mission Impossible style movie, I will go see that. That was a great TV show growing up. But in terms of this Lilo and Stitch trailer, a few highlights that popped out in it. We see the ice cream man at the end of it. One of the things that caught me by surprise, but it's a great improvement from the original. Jumba and Pleakley, if you know them from the original. Jumba is a big, four-eyed, chubby alien, and Pleakley is a one-eyed, skinny alien. In the cartoon, they are wearing drag, and one's wearing a mustache and sunglasses. Now, it's a cartoon. You can get away with that. Try doing that in live action, like in real-world settings, as close to real world you can get. That's going to look a little odd. And so they immediately, like, one of the last shots in the trailer, you see someone holding the gun. And you're like holding an alien gun. And then you hear someone say, Jumba. And I was like, no, they better not do a, 1980s or whatever, how long ago it was, Mario Brothers movie where Bowser's a dude instead of what he was in the animated movie that we just got. But no, those are the actors voicing and playing Jumba and Pleakley, and then Jumba disables his cloaking device that disguises him as a human and then reveals his alien form. Perfect. That is a perfect way to not only explain to the audience how are these two even walking among you, and you're not freaking out that, oh my God, aliens. These are aliens. They have better technology than we do, and they probably have something like this up their arsenal to blend in with us. And it saves you money if you're the studio. You don't have to worry about CGI a whole bunch when talking about Jumba and Pleakley. You're probably going to have CGI for the beginning, obviously. Somewhere in the middle of the movie where where Lilo's house gets destroyed, and then the end climax where we see, if they are faithful to the movie, where they go after Captain Gantu, because this was originally supposed to be a Disney Plus movie, and then Bob Iger said, "No, put this in theaters," and this movie is going to rake in all the money at the box office, in my opinion. Like I said, Stitch is a money-making merchandise machine for Disney. And it's just going to get even more popular. And we will transition into the next topic, and that is this for a quick 2-episode review of Daredevil Born Again. The first 2 episodes start off with a bang. With action, with brutalness, intimidating, hardcore rated R gloriness that we got from the Netflix shows. Episodes 3 and 4 dives into nothing but drama. There's no action fight scenes in these 2 episodes. And there is nothing but courtroom drama. There's nothing but script drama. This whole thing with these 2 episodes show that not only this is just a hand fist John Wick type of TV show. No, although that would be awesome. No, it's not that. This is a complex, layered story. It all comes ahead to the confrontation that we get in episode 4 with Frank Castle and Matthew Murdock, a.k.a. the Punisher and Daredevil. They're not fighting hand to hand. They're not shooting at each other. They have a moral argument that rivals what happened in season 2 of the Netflix Daredevil show when they're on the rooftop arguing over morals. What's right, what's wrong, how do you get to that right, how you get to that right without compromising your rights. Now it's, hey, something bad happened to you. You couldn't save the one. Like you couldn't save your friend. And if you watch episode 1, you know who he's talking about. Charlie Cox really in this sequence in episode 4 played his rear end off of the best iteration. Of his best performance of Matthew Murdock / Daredevil. The emotion, the quippiness, to the brutalness, to him being broken on screen as Frank is trying to console with him about what happened with Foggy. And then Punisher's like, I went through the same thing. I go through the same thing. When I stay still for a moment, I still hear my little boy. I still hear my son. And then every time I see another criminal out there, he says, go get him, Daddy. Get every last one of them. So the back and forth in like that whole segment in episode 4, one of the best, if not the best thing in the MCU we've seen in a long, long while. We also got our first introduction in episode 4, finally. At least what he looks like in person. The guy to the left, his name is Muse. Dude is a painter that uses human blood. He does not care who he kills. He does not care why he does it. He just does it for the fun of it. Sound familiar? Sounds like the Joker. Sounds like Jared Leto's... no. Not Jared Leto. No, what is wrong with you? It sounds like Heath Ledger's Joker. No morals, no nothing. He just did it because he could do it. And the lasting shot... the shot ending with episode 4, with Muse taking his next victim and sucking the blood out of him, was some of the most gruesome. Like, this is something you don't show to kids. This is something you definitely don't show to your kids or your sensitive loved ones that maybe don't take too kindly to this sort of thing. The confrontation between Muse and Daredevil is going to be interesting. Because in the Muse is a relatively new character in the comics. And I had to do just a simple Wikipedia of Muse, and it says he has no other alias. No one knows who he is. Like his secret identity, if he has one. He's apparently had a run-in with the Inhumans. So is this dude super powered? With super strength? With super speed? Supposedly as his skill set? Is he like a mutant? Since the MCU is not doing Inhumans, they're doing mutants now. They're doing mutants now. So many questions, and I'm glad I watched episode 3 and 4 back to back, because this upcoming Tuesday is going to be episode 5 and episode 6 back to back, released on the same day. That is going to be utterly amazing when that goes down as well. Vincent D'Onofrio, Kingpin, he's still He's still Kingpin. He's still looking really good in this role. And his character development is really, really taking a turn for something really interesting. Really interesting. And that's just my quick overall thoughts on episode 4 and episode 3. Yes. Before I move on, the trial of the White Tiger in episode 3. If you are a diehard Spider-Man fan, you will have caught these 2 Easter eggs. In episode 2, Kingpin name drops. Like vigilantes, we don't want them in the city. We don't need a man dressed up as a spider. Easter egg number 1. Easter egg number 2 for you, for Spider-Man for you. When Matt Murdock is going through the trial of, it's the trial of the White Tiger vigilante in court. And Matt Murdock, his lawyer, White Tiger's lawyer, is holding up a bunch of police reports for all the court and all the policemen there to see. He's listing off names of like good reports of police officers they've had with the White Tiger. He's going off name after name after name. And then he says, Officer Morales. If you don't know who that is Miles Morales' father, Jeff Davis, right there. Jeff Davis. What's he called Miles Morales? Because now in the comic lines, he changes his name to Morales because of the troubled background of his last name Davis, because of his brother being the Prowler, being a vigilante criminal. He wanted to wipe away from all traces of Davis and adopt the last name of his wife, Morales. And so there is a hint, there is a connective tissue in the comics that the MCU can take a liberty with and say his name is Jefferson Morales, not Jefferson Davis. His name is actually Jefferson Morales, and if that holds up to be true, this is the second Miles Morales Easter egg we've gotten in this MCU. We got the first one with the Prowler in Spider-Man Homecoming, where you see Aaron Davis, played by Donald Glover, webbed up to the car. Once it gets the gun off the streets and the name drops, I have a nephew that lives near here. That nephew is Miles Morales. So interesting things going forward. And we had to talk about the first 2 episodes with my dad about those corrupt cops holding that had that Punisher skull on the wrist. Apparently a whole bunch of other cops have the Punisher tattoos. And they have no connection to the Punisher, it looks like, with Frank Castle, as he called them, sick fanboys. And they're using the Punisher's name to dish out justice in their own means. Hence the ending of episode 3 of what happened there. All right. And we will close out the show with some Titan stuff. And that's this. It is looking more and more likely that Cam Ward is going to be the first overall pick. And not only that, he's going to be the first overall pick to win the Tennessee Titans first overall. He's coming to Nashville. And for the longest time, even when I was saying we should draft Shedeur, take out Shedeur and insert Ward, and all the arguments that are being plagued around the league, around the draft, around certain folks in the Titan fan base. We're entertaining the first round pick. We're entertaining trading the first round pick. We need more picks. We need more top 100 picks. We need to trade back. This is a weak quarterback class. All of that. Poof. Gone. Aaron Rodgers is not coming here. Sam Darnold signed with the Seahawks. Jameis Winston today. No, yesterday. Yesterday's Friday. Friday, he signed a 2-year deal with the New York Giants. Derek Carr is going back to New Orleans. Kirk Cousins is still in Atlanta, and if he does go anywhere, he's going to go to either Cleveland or the Giants. Cleveland because of Kevin Stefanski with the connection there. Russell Wilson is not going to be signing with you. All of these high-end free agents or potential free agents. Matthew Stafford was another one. He's going back to the Rams. All these potential quarterbacks that could have been had for the Titans that folks wanted us to have or were writing articles about for us to have. Poof. Gone. All of it's rated. We did not bring anybody in. Carson Wentz is another one. Mac Jones is another one. Taylor Heineke, unfortunately. My boy, Taylor Heineke. Oh, excuse me. My boy, Taylor Heineke. I was vouching for that man to be our QB2 so badly. That would be awesome to have. But no, he went back to the Chargers, like almost coincidentally, after we signed Brandon Allen, a journeyman quarterback who knows Brian Callahan's offense when he was there in Cincinnati. And that tipped the cap for two things. Will Levis won't be with us for much longer. Whether it be he gets traded during the draft or he will get traded after the preseason, a la Malik Willis. Hence, another point I made with Easton Freeze on our last episode. Are we going to see another Malik Willis situation to where Will Levis will be with us during training camp and preseason, and then after the last game of the preseason, he will be off our roster via trade or cut? So interesting there. And another thing this does, we are selecting our quarterback, and we are not trading out of that first-round pick. We are not. We are going to get our franchise quarterback. And from everything that's been going on since the draft, before the draft, going just before free agency, of like, oh, the Tennessee Titans need a trade. Oh, the Giants, but the Giants, they just need to give up a few day 2 picks. They don't need to give up a future first round. Anyone with eyes and ears, when you're listening to that press conference with Mike Borgonzi and Chad Brinker, anyone with eyes and ears can get the sense that if they were going to trade out of that pick, first overall, they wanted the Bears-Panthers haul. They wanted, at minimum, 2 future first-round picks and other picks to go with it. There is no way, unless something happens in the next 5 weeks before the draft happens, where the Giants owner finally caves in and says, you know what? Here you go. Here's your 2 first-round picks and other picks for the first overall pick. We want Cam Ward that badly. To where, it's straightforward. Like, they wanted the Panthers haul, and anyone else outside the media had not projected that in any trade, except for the last few trades I have seen mocked of us dropping a 3, of them at least giving up 1 future first-round pick. And even then, that's not enough because that's not the Panthers haul. The Panthers-Bears haul gave them 1 future first-round pick, which resulted in Caleb Williams, and DJ Moore, who was a first-round pick but a bona fide starter for you at wide receiver. So the equivalent of that trade is 2 future first-round picks or a future first-round pick and a bona fide starter in a trade with the Giants. That was never going to happen with that Giants ownership because they weren't going to get screwed over again by that GM and the head coach that let Saquon Barkley out the door, that gave Daniel Jones all that money, for $40 million a year. You signed your soul to the devil when they did that. He was not going to give him any leeway. You got to work with what you got to work with. You have the 3rd overall pick. If you can get the first, great. But I ain't giving up the future because you may not be here when the future rolls around, says Giants owner, probably behind the scenes. And then all that talk of, oh, this is such a weak quarterback class. Shedeur might fall out of the first round. Cam Ward would only be like quarterback 5 or 6 in last year's draft. So there's this one guy. I don't know his name, but I'm going to let him try his best to try to explain this one away of what he thinks about the Titans and Cam Ward. Let's see him try to explain this to you and see if it makes sense.
If the Titans draft Cam Ward with the number 1 overall pick, it would set them back for the next 5 years. If Cam Ward was in last year's draft, he wouldn't even be considered a top 10 pick. So you're going to draft a quarterback who's better than Will Levis now, but you might put yourself in the same position in the next couple years. Of course, Cam Ward is better than Will Levis now, but that's only for the short term. Look at the teams who have drafted their franchise quarterback over the past couple years. The Bears, the Commanders, and the Patriots all decided to pass on Levis in 2020.
Let's stop right there for a minute. He mentions the Bears, Commanders, and Patriots did not draft Will Levis in 2023. Let's go through each situation. The Bears had Justin Fields, who they were going to give him one more year to prove it. Let's look at the Commanders. They had Sam Howell, who they were very high on, that could potentially do something with that offense. And I'm blanking on the I'm blanking on the offensive coordinator there. That used to be there with Patrick Mahomes, and then right there. And then with the Patriots, they were with Mac Jones. They're still on the Mac Jones train. They got rid of Matt Patricia and that special teams coach to be from his offensive coordinators, and brought in Bill O'Brien to be the OC to properly get him back to his form of being the rookie of the year. So that's why in 2023, those 3 teams did not draft Cam Ward or a quarterback in that year. So let's go back to this guy.
23, even though they desperately needed a quarterback. But that put them in a position the following year to draft Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, and Drake May. Being patient and waiting for a better quarterback draft is better than wasting the number 1 overall pick. And the number 1 overall pick is such an easy answer between 2 players. Either you draft Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter. And unless the Titans want to do the same thing in the next couple years, they need to pass on any quarterback in this year.
By the way, this guy right here, if you can see behind him, I want to see if I can do that. He has Ravens memorabilia behind him. No bias whatsoever. This guy. Ravens memorabilia behind him. And for those of you asking, what does that have to do with his critique and whatnot? Ravens fans and Titans fans don't like each other. They hate each other. We hate the Ravens. We call them the Ratbirds for a reason. They're horrible. They used to be our rivals back in the AFC Central days. And I think that was there. Does he have more to say?
Draft. If the Titans,
yeah, that was it. You are not selling yourself back if you draft Cam Ward, because in today's NFL, and Charles Davis said it best when he was interviewed the other day. is that in today's NFL, you can draft a quarterback and if he doesn't work out for you, you can get off of him the next year later if you wanted to. And he brought up the Josh Rosen situation. He brought up many other situations to where you have quarterbacks on this rookie pay scale now because of Sam Bradford, because of Jamarcus Russell, because of all these other rookie quarterbacks coming out of the NFL draft, not producing for you, stealing money from the franchises, essentially, being paid like they're elite when they were not. That's why they came out with the rookie salary cap in the first place, is that you can have leverage, like you can have flexibility with them. You can't sign no more than 5 years for a first-round pick. Every single draft pick is a 4-year deal. Gone are the days where draft picks used to be 6-year, 7-year deals, and that's one thing that killed the teams back in the day. And so I brought this up, and before we continue, I brought this situation up of if this was in place when Vince Young was drafted. Let's look at the years and let's look at the scenario that played out. Vince Young was drafted in 2006. They probably extend him for the 5th-year option after year 3, probably, because like he's behind Kerry Collins at the time, and you think he's going to do good, and you don't want to lose him for nothing. Maybe you can get him for year 4, year 5 for resurgence. And so by the time 2009 rolls around, you're looking at 2006, 2007, 2008, 2009. And they give him the 5th-year option. After what Vince Young did in 2009 and just by the skin of his teeth, just barely missed the playoffs, taking the Titans 8-2 with an 8-8 record, still the only team in NFL history to start 0-6 and then win 5 straight games. Still the only team in NFL history to do that. And Vince Young almost pulled off the impossible of taking us to the playoffs. Had we not lost to the Colts and had we not lost to the freaking Chargers on Christmas Day, I was at that game. That was a freezing game that I went to with my dad. Man, oh man, that was freezing cold. Fast forward to that offseason, they probably give him an extension of a contract. They probably give him an extension going beyond 2010. Now think about that for a second, because Vince Young, with no rookie salary cap, I believe he signed like a 6-year deal. He had 2011 on the books. But then the folks, Bud Adams and others, after 2010 said, no, we're just going to cut bait with you, and we're not going to deal with your last year of 2011. We're just not going to deal with it. We're just going to cut bait with you. I make the argument that if that salary cap was in place at the time, Vince Young would probably still have been our quarterback for a few more years, or at least through 2011, and then you avoid the embarrassment of Jake Locker. You avoid that embarrassment. And then maybe you roll in with RG3 or Andrew Luck as your quarterback the next year later. See how everything comes around and does well for you? Potentially? So, So to get back to this whole thing with Cam Ward, the Titans are going to be setback years. No, they're not. At most, they will be set back only 2 to 3 years. If you take Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter, you're going to be set back longer because, one, you don't have a quarterback, and then by the time you do get a quarterback, if that quarterback sets you back, that will be the grand total of how much of not selecting a Cam Ward or Shador Sanders first overall would have set you back. You have to go back to that particular draft where you decided to choose Cam Ward. When you decided to choose Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter at the time. And so everyone is dropping the act. It looks like it's going to be Cam Ward first overall. There was one mock draft from PFF, and all of us Titan fans will jump off the proverbial cliff if this is true. They had us trading back with the Giants at 3, and they had us taking Jackson Dart, the quarterback, out of Ole Miss. If that were to happen on draft night, all of us are going to be jumping off the proverbial cliff. You want to talk about a pick that potentially sets back your franchise more than 3 years? This would be the pick to do it. Because Jackson Dart is at most a mid to late first round pick. If you're trading back to 3, you're trading back because you're praying Shadour's there and Cleveland passes on him. Or if Cleveland does get Shador, you're picking between Abdul or Travis. You're not taking third fiddle of a quarterback at 3 when you could have had the better one at 1. That's that for that. How about that for you? Another thing that was floating around out there was with the whole, this is a weak quarterback class. We all kept hearing it. I kept hearing it. I was lectured on it. This is a weak quarterback class. No more than 2 will go in the first round. Maybe sprinkle in Jackson Dart at 3. Like, third quarterback going off the board. Mel Kiper has him going to the Saints, which is really interesting. This Tyler guy from Louisville is getting buzzed to where he could potentially be the 4th quarterback going in the first round. So how do we go from weak quarterback class, there are no first-round quarterbacks, to we could have 4 first-round quarterbacks in this draft? How do we get to this point? It is comical and laughable at this juncture, because if that happens, I will be laughing my rear end off with these people that claim to know better and say, oh, there's no such thing as first-round quarterbacks in this class. This is a weak class. Well, apparently not. Apparently not. That's going to be pretty funny if that guy Tyler or Will Howard sneaks his way into the first round from Ohio State. It's going to be hilarious if we get 4 quarterbacks in the first round. I am still convinced that the Steelers are going to draft a quarterback, and I still believe that that's going to be Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart's going to be the pick for the Steelers if he is there on the board. I am still on the bandwagon. I'm still believing that. I still think that's going to happen, unless Mel Kiper gets his wish and the Saints do something dubious and draft the 3rd quarterback in the top 10 of this draft, which no one could have seen coming. All right, we will close out the show right there, folks, and we will just leave it there. Thank you for joining this episode of Cast It to Its King. Comment below what you thought about this episode. Did you really hate Snow White? Am I crazy for believing that it was really good? Am I missing something? If I am, please comment below of what you thought about my review of Snow White. And also, what do you think of Muse for Daredevil? Is this not one of the creepier villains in the MCU? And then also Cam Ward and the Titans. Do you think it's a dumb deal? Do you think the Titans have really shown their hand of what they're going to do with the first overall pick, barring a out-of-this-world trade package that we have not heard or seen yet? Comment below, like this video, subscribe to this video, and ring the notification bell when you do so you can get new updates on posts and videos that get uploaded to this channel. Until next time, guys, my name is Joshua Mickle, and always keep kicking it to the king.